Hey, this is aMTBer Products, the Chainwax Podcast, and Granny Gear on the Old Guy and a Bike channel has just done a review of the Darkmatter. He's actually been using it on his gravel bike and road bike, and he called me up about a week ago and said, "This is so smooth." I said, yeah, it's got a very muted feel, damped feel, and it still has all the performance. But it's got so much protection in it for e-bikes that when you do supplement your road bike or gravel bike or XC race bike, it's just, you can really feel a little bit more of that muted feeling and quiet chain from the 5311. If you've been using 5311, which is a racing formula for analog bikes, the Darkmatter enhances it as a supplement, maybe putting it on one every 5 to 10 rides. So yeah, so on his channel here, his latest review covers what he's doing with it, the multiple uses of it. And now he's been using 5311 on his e-bike since he got the e-bike, okay? And he's, I know how it is. I sent him a bunch of the Darkmatter with his last order to try to, get him to use it on his e-bike. But, he's been using 5311 with just fine results, doing his 1-2 hour e-bike rides out there. And 1 or 2 hours on the e-bike is usually 20, 30, 40 miles. So, it's the 5311's been holding up for him, but he wants to up it to the Darkmatter and see just how much of a difference it makes.
High torque demands like e-bikes. Stay tuned. Bicycle chains need loving too. Well, and if there's any bicycle chain that needs more loving than any other, it's got to be the bicycle chain that lives on a full power e-bike. And today we're going to be upping the chain lube game when it comes to high torque demands like.
So yeah, so this is what it was designed for, but yet it works on your analog bike as a supplement for high torque applications.
It's not really a cost analysis.
Like if you're doing a lot of hill climbing. So using it sparingly on your analog bike, you're going to see some huge results. Basically, what he covers in the video is that it binds to the metal, just like the 5311 does over time. It does it more instantly. It does it in one application. You have everything there you need, and because it does it so quickly, you don't need it every ride on an analog bike. On an e-bike, the worst conditions our testers presented us, okay? One guy, Tom, who I've known since 3rd grade, by the way. He's an XC racer, used to race across up in Alaska. Like he did Alaska snow races on an XC bike. Crazy. This guy's very skilled rider and does a lot of long endurance stuff. But what he does on his e-bike is basically these 40-mile daily rides in the Southern California dust and fluff, and there's I was out there yesterday. There's still stream crossings on my local trails that he rides as well, and it's not as dusty yet, but by end of summer it's brutal, So he was burning through the chain lube so fast. When I gave him the Darkmatter, we refined it because of his conditions, and now he's able to get through all his rides. Basically, he can drain his battery and not have any issues with the chain. And that's the stuff that I released in 2022. And that's the stuff the Loam Wolf tested. That's the same stuff here that Granny Gear at Old Guy on a Bike is using. So the Darkmatter has not changed since its release. What has changed, and he alludes to this in the video, is the upgrade I've done to UberClear. So UberClear is the wax top off daily, basically, once the Darkmatter is established in your chain, you want to replace the waxes after big rides and stuff. So it's a way to refresh it without adding more Darkmatter to it. And like I said, the Darkmatter is designed to chemically bond to your chain. And once it's on there, it doesn't come off. Okay, so if you see dark matter squeezing out of your side plates, it's because it can't take anymore. That's when you would use your top off, either 5311 or Uber Clear on an analog bike or an e-bike. Either one is going to be great top off. The Uber Clear is a little softer than the 5311. So if you're in, let's see, if you're in really sandy conditions, maybe the 5311 is a little better. If you're in really dusty conditions, either one's going to work. And if you're in wet, muddy conditions, either will work just fine. We don't have the 7 years of data on Uber Clear like we do on 5311. But what I'm finding is the Uber Clear is holding up just fine. I did 5 stream crossings yesterday with Uber Clear on my trail bike, and it's just as good in all mixed conditions as 5311. It's just a different blend to work in conjunction specifically with the dark matter to not wear away the dark matter chemically in any way. The 5311 has the dark matter stuff in there in small amounts, so it will add it back if it does wear it away. So there's a little chemical difference between the two, and the proportions of things is very different, but they all feel really smooth. Now, he called me up and told me that he's using dark matter and Uber Clear now on his gravel bike, and he can't believe how smooth it is. The combination, the two, adding both, like doing a small dark matter application, waiting 15 minutes for it to dry, and then topping it off with Uber Clear to basically fill the rollers to capacity. So anytime you double coat our product, you're actually, it's all wax and lubrication particles with about 20% or less of the alcohol, depending on your formula. So, the product is 80% lubrication ingredients, with the carrier, which evaporates away about 20% or so, as opposed to other chain lubes, which it's like 75 to 90% water, okay? Ours is not a water-based emulsion. So the thing is, that little bit that evaporates away, when you do the second coat, you're actually filling in the rest, pretty much. You're getting it to like 90% filled in your rollers. And since our stuff is designed to stay in there and not flake away, there's no flaking with our product. So the stuff it stays in there, and it provides you a lot of endurance duration by doing a double application if you need it. I don't do it because I don't ride more than 30 miles typically. One application's fine for me to be out there for 3 hours, and that's what I do to not waste it.
He came out with a new version he's been refining that's designed for the high torque demands that really, really fits nice with like a full...
And that would be the Uber Clear that's being refined. So, yeah, basically, it was so thick, it worked fine for me in my 90-degree weather here in Southern California. But in wintertime, it got a little thick in the bottle. And I thought, well, how can we make it a little more viscous, a little thinner, and not lose anything? And so I thought, it took me about 6 months of thinking about it. And I started tinkering with it. And then by winter, I had it figured out. So, I wasn't going to do a winter-summer blend. I wanted it to be all year round and still work. So right now I'm testing it in the 100-degree, 12% hill climb, standing climbs. It's holding up in the heat just as well, and it flows better in the winter, flows better year-round. And it's still as smooth as 5311. Right now I'm getting data. I'm doing weekly chain measuring to see if there's any considerable chain wear increase. So one bike has 5311, and I'm doing half the rides with that about, and then the other bike, I'm actually doing twice the amount of rides on the bike with the Uber Clear, and so far, no additional chain stretch on either bikes in the same conditions. Standing hill climbs, 100-degree weather at noon in June, and it gets about that hot, even though the temperature published is 85 degrees. Yeah, right. Out there on the road, it's 100. And no chain wear has been added to the data yet. I'm going to do another couple days on this 4.5 with the new Uberclear and measure again, and that'll be pretty good results.
Hands that really fits nice with like a full power e-bike. You can use it on other bikes too. We're going to talk about it really quickly. I have been using, before you go look at the other videos, I've been using one of the other formulas of his out of the bottle wax.
And that's the 5311 he's been using for 7 years. So he uses it pretty sparingly. He only uses it every 3 or 4 rides. He'll do an application of 5311 on his analog bikes, his pedal powered bikes, okay, for 7 years. And, so because he uses it occasionally and not every ride like I do, he sees the difference by adding the Darkmatter and then riding that, and then after a few rides doing 5311, and he sees it's, for him and what he's been doing, it is resulting in a longer lasting, smoother feeling ride. Like he's able to go a few more miles by doing that method. So like I said, I always just
15 minutes.
I always just
Bicycle chains.
I always just put a little bit on each ride, and there's a reason for that, and there's something that I've yet to have any reviewer actually explain in their own words, is that the product is designed to re-liquefy itself. That is unlike any other chain lube on the market. When you put on Super Secret and layer it up, it just flakes off like any other wax dip chain. When you put on Squirt, it dries like a coat of paint, and after 3 or 4 applications, you're basically sealed it out from getting into your rollers. You've got it in there, you've got dirt, you've got old lube in there with metal that's grinded. That stuff doesn't protect your chain very well from chain wear. I was only getting about 700 miles on a chain with Squirt in my testing over 10 years ago. More than that, it's got to be 2010, somewhere around 10 or 11 when I used Squirt. And, I didn't get any extra chain life. And so that means you've got metal wearing out. Now, if you've got metal wearing out in your chain and it's sealed in with the wax, and you can't even get new wax into the rollers because the old wax has formed a coat of paint on the outside of your chain, you're just sealed in all that metal into your chain. That's exactly why I think my chains didn't last long with Squirt. So I'd have to strip them all the time, and even then it didn't get very good chain life because there wasn't a lot of metal to metal separation with those waxes in Squirt. Squirt is just a wax emulsion, 75% water, 25% wax at best, and that is documented on their SDS sheet. You can look up Squirt data sheet and you can find their blend published for the whole world to see. Ours is more like 75% wax, 25% other ingredients. And ours is designed with these high torque particles to prevent that. All right, I'm getting a little sidetracked here.
When the Uberclear is just top coating that, keeping it running quiet. So why would you totally use one or the other? And
so basically it's covering why you only use as a supplement on your road bike, gravel bike, XC race bike, trail bike. You just don't need that much. There's only so much that will bond, and then the stuff that if you do see a lot of black particles squeezing out with Darkmatter, that's because you've got your rollers filled to what they can handle. Now, what you can do is you can push it back in. Like I just covered, the product reliquefies itself unlike any other lube. So if you put Uberclear on with the Darkmatter particles even squeezing out, you can reliquefy that and push it back in. Now there's not going to be any dirt stuck to your chain. If you want to slightly wipe it off with a microfiber towel on the side plates to get any, there's going to be nothing stuck to your chain. Okay, so you can reliquefy the stuff that's squeezing out, push it back in, so to speak. You're just pushing those black particles back in and sealing them in with the Uberclear, using the Uberclear to reliquefy it. And that's one way to do it. The other way is to use alcohol and just have a rag and spray the chain and just wipe it down, and that will reliquify the wax and remove it. Or you can use chain prep to do like a flush. If say you like buried your bike in mud, like you went through enough mud where it actually coated the chain with mud, and you rinse the chain off with water with the hose. I recommend doing it at the bottom of the chain and not dousing your whole bike, but just getting the mud off the chain. At that point, if you want to flush it, the chain prep formula is a good way to do that without spending a ton of money. It will flush out all the contaminants, and it won't redissolve the dark matter very easily. I think I briefly touched on that. When I was developing it, I had a couple of industrial products in mind and what they do for other industries. And that's as much as I can say about that. And so the thing is I said, okay, let's see if we can figure out something similar with the environment a chain goes through, meaning it's not in a sealed system. It's not under enormous amount of heat. There's no heat to do anything. It's not sealed from oxygen. It's not, the bicycle chain is exposed. And can we achieve this bonding under the conditions a regular bike chain goes through? Well, when I was doing the initial testing on my SB55, I still have that chain in the shed, and I switched it 3.5 years ago to this current chain. That first chain that I did the testing on, I was putting it on with the 3-headed brush. Some would get on the outside, and I would let it just stay there. Well, when I decided to clean up the outside, I couldn't even get it off with a wire brush. I usually use a brass bristle brush, wasn't coming off. Used a stainless steel bristle brush, wasn't coming off. Had to soak it with alcohol, wasn't coming off. Put on some more chain lube with a little thin down with alcohol, let it sit, and I was able to finally get it to come off a little bit. And it took a lot of work, and I went, wow, that's how strong the bond is on the inside of your chain for metal to metal separation. And I've taken other chains apart and looked at them that had the dark matter to take a look, and it is in there like basically permanently. So when you add more, if it can't take it, it's going to squeeze out. So under the load of the pedal force of a human being, putting out, say, 500 watt pulses, 800 to 1,000 watt pulses is what I do when I'm standing, climbing. Most people can put out at least 500 watts when you really push down. And then the torque that's behind that. You're going to wear away a little bit under those conditions, but it lasts a long time. So let's see. From here, I want to tell you why the UberClear works with this. This is sort of like to lubricate on top of that protective layer. And you're going to just basically use the UberClear as your daily wax that wears away like any other wax. Waxes only go a couple hundred miles and you have to redo them. Doesn't matter what they say over here, over there, it's zero friction or silica. The waxes, after about 150 miles, it's time to redo it. Doesn't matter who it is. There's only 5 different types of waxes on Earth, and all of them only last about that long. Okay, so the particles and the bonding is where I focused my attention to, and that's what took me 10,000 hours of development. 10,000 hours of development and testing. Nobody else has put that kind of effort into it. So that's where ours is different, is the amount of hours and time and testing and just making these micro adjustments over this series of months and years per product. And nobody else can claim that. I know what they're doing. I've seen their form. I've seen their product. It's a 3-ingredient product. All of them. Rotation, optimize, silica, all of them. I think Squirt has 4 ingredients, okay? their hot wax melt. And, you know, the difference is ours is a chain treatment. Nobody else is calling theirs a chain treatment, because ours is treating the metal permanently, treating the metal in a positive way, never chemically altering the steel with high pH or high acidic products added to it. So every time you strip your chain to redo it, whether you're doing it by boiling it, adding excessive heat, using a degreaser, adding excessive pH in one direction or the other, you're chemically altering the metal of your chain. There's no getting around it. And then you've got a bare chain exposed to oxygen and water for a period of time until you recoat it, and then you've got that corrosion that's going on. Our system eliminates all those factors. No water, no air, no high pH, no low pH, no acid, no acid, and then no chemical, like no petroleum products or solvents that are harmful to you. You don't want to breathe that stuff every time you have to lube your chain. And our system is thought this whole problem from A to Z, not just this one-dimensional, can it pass this test on a static machine, putting out a static amount of power, and we add a couple of grains of dirt to it every few hours. That's not what we did. So, real quick side note here, after I swapped the tires on my XC race bike, the SB100, got it down to 23.14 ounces. So that's not 23 pounds 4 ounces, that's 23.14, which is less than 1 ounce. 0.16 would be 1 ounce, I believe. Oh, actually, it's just under 23 pounds 2 ounces. So that's where it's at now, and what a difference. Losing a pound of rotating weight on the bike has made climbing super fun. I'm driving, getting animal food right now. Got to get chicken feed and a few other things. But I want to wrap this one up with the next topic of just covering why there's so many different versions in the website and online. You can find everything at Amazon. That's something that I should probably put a link in the description for that. But the reason why we have a $15 chain lube and 5311, which is got a $20 retail, it's been on sale for a long time. The reason why it's $15.99 is because it cost me exactly $1 more to make that. Okay, so instead of me charging $5 more, I'm just charging the $1 more to cover the actual production cost of each unit. So that's why it's $15.99. Eventually, once it goes to distribution and retail, it'll have to go to $20, I'm sure. And I'm sure a lot of people will sell it for more than that, but hoping to keep this capped off at $20. Pulling into the other pet food store, the Cahoots store here. So the reason why I still keep 1.2 in the lineup is it's enough for 90% of people out there. 90% of the world are not people that ride $10,000 mountain bikes. But the people that do ride $10,000 mountain bikes, which is what I designed the chain lube initially for, are going to benefit from 5311, Uber Clear, and Darkmatter. And those are $20 chain lubes retail value. The difference, and I've been in retail, I've been a distributor since I've been 27 years old, and the difference in a price point of $15 versus $20, $14.99 versus $19.99, is that when you take a product, especially like for a chain lube, and you have it at $15, you're going to get a huge market share at that price point. Once you bump it up to $20, you are now at the psychological $20 barrier, which is why nothing on TV is usually more than $20 for sale. Okay, so the $19.95 price point, people are willing to spend $20. But with chain lube, there's another factor there that you're used to spending $7 or $8 or $9 on chain lube. And, 15 is a stretch, but that's still under the $20 psychological barrier. Once you get to 20, it's a full commitment, basically. It's still considered an impulse buy for TV, but for the real world, in real life, in bike stores, when it's sitting next to a $14 chain lube or a $12 chain lube or a $10 chain lube, it's hard to make that decision, even no matter what you hear. So I keep the $15 chain lube, which is Formula 1.2, in the lineup to reach 80% of the people. I think I'm going to limit my market to, if I just had 5311 and nothing else, I would eliminate 80% of my customers. So down the road. So the $15 price point stays there, and we also have the $12 price point of Leubenschleiden LS1, the original no crockpot formula in the black and white bottle. That's now what we consider the bike park formula. So labels need to be updated at some point, but that's the reason. That's the reason for all the different products in the lineup. There's 1.2, 5311. There's the rest of the lineup right there. So it's not hard to understand it. This is basically everybody can use one of these two. And if you want to keep it that simple, just look at it like that. Are you willing to spend $15 or $20 down the line? This is still on sale for $15.99, guys. And then here, everything is $12 for that, $12 for the chain prep formula, and then $16.99 for Darkmatter and Uberclear, because those cost me an extra $1 more to make as well, at least. I just did the breakdown on the ingredients going in here. It's actually probably, it's more than that. So these batches went from tens of dollars to make in the beginning to a lot. So it costs quite a bit per gallon to make this stuff now. It's more than doubled since 2020. Well, it's certainly my favorite lube. It's the Loam Wolf's favorite lube. It's Granny Gear's favorite lube. It'll be yours as well if you give it a try. You will have a filthy dirty bike like this with a spotless clean chain like this at the end of each ride. And that was the goal. No chain maintenance ever. No degreasers ever. You're not going to believe how easy it is to maintain your chain and get the best chain life you've probably ever had. Even better than your crock pots. And I guarantee it. Just put it on regularly. All right, guys. Chainwax Podcast. Start with 5311. Go up or down from there according to your needs. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And we will talk again real soon.